No problem, bro. Glad to be here.
And we appreciate you. And I gotta say this, I hope you take this in a good way, because I mean it in a good way. I love your fights. You're a psychopath. I love watching it. You're so exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. Man on a mission, you know.
Is that your comfort zone? Like just throwing haymakers, trying to knock their guy out, or do you just want to put on a show? Where does that come from?
Yeah, you want to put on a show. I try to be technical as much as I can. Like my last fight, I feel like was my best one as far as staying controlled. But sometimes the tiger gets out of the cage. You got to bring him back in a little bit. But I mean, I'm a far better boxer than I am a brawler. I just got to stick with that.
Your jab is the one thing that I love too. It's so strong. Are you actually left-handed, or do you just have that good of a jab?
I'm right-handed, so yeah, I just got a good jab. It's all about the technique and repetitions. I've thrown millions of them.
How long have you been boxing?
I started boxing when I was in fourth grade, so when I was probably about eight. 32 now. So, I started martial arts when I was four. I used to do taekwondo. Got into boxing when I was about eight. Started doing jeet kune do when I was probably about 12. I kind of continued all three, throughout my life. And then, when I was 16, that's when I started training for mixed martial arts. And, the rest is kind of history. I did that till I was 28. Was battling some injuries and had pretty much, quit fighting MMA. Got tired of the politics and stuff in it. And then, took a bare knuckle fight on a whim on like a 3-week notice. And, shit went viral. And, here we are today, 6 fights later and, fighting for the belt coming up October 1st in Monroe.
I read that you were a firefighter. Is that right?
Yeah, for 9 years I was a firefighter for the city of West Monroe. So when I was 20 and then until I was 29.
So you finally transitioned to a full-time fighter, yeah?
No, not
No,
at all.
yeah.
Yeah, I currently have 2 jobs. I'm a roofing contractor, and I own a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu boxing school, so I run that. I do a little substitute teaching here and there just to do it. So I stay pretty busy.
Oh, I think
But
Johnny's getting situated still here. Sorry about that.
it's all good. Yeah, it ain't a full-time gig yet. But I gotta have something to do.
Can you hear us now, Johnny?
I can.
All right, perfect. Can you hear Quentin?
I can.
All right, perfect.
Nice.
How long were you training in jiu-jitsu before you opened your own gym?
Oh man. Let's see. I started training jiu-jitsu when I was 16, and then I opened my gym up when I was 27. So, about 11 years.
And was jiu-jitsu the first martial arts that you trained?
No, I started off in taekwondo when I was young, and then transitioned. I say transitioned. I continued to do martial arts or taekwondo till I was probably about 14. The boxing came in around when I was 8. And then when I was 16, we were doing jeet kune do and stuff too. And MMA just that was around the time that MMA kind of had gotten popular, at least around here. They started having fights and stuff. And, we just kind of transitioned our game into fighting and that, to compete by that rule set. And, the rest is history, man. I've always been a huge striker. It's always kind of been my bread and butter, but, I'm pretty good at jiu-jitsu too. So, I've been doing it for about 16 years now. And, if you never quit, you end up just getting better.
Definitely.
I had a question about the Jeet Kune Do. Your dad, I think I read that your dad owned a Jeet Kune Do gym, right?
Right.
For people who don't know that, can you let them know what that is?
Jeet Kune Do is Bruce Lee's martial art that he kind of came up with. And, Jeet Kune Do is more of a mindset more than it is necessarily a martial art in itself. It's made to continually get better and evolve, and that's what we were doing, and that's kind of why it went so well with mixed martial arts, because of the open-minded concept that Jeet Kune Do has, is to, bringing in the good stuff that you like and the things that aren't working, pass them to the side. But that was the gist of it. The biggest difference in Jeet Kune Do and MMA is there's rules, so, there's a lot of eye gouging, groin strikes and stuff like that, that we had to get rid of. But besides that, they're pretty similar.
How did
Now,
that come about? How do you guys open that gym?
Well, my dad trained with a guy here for years, and that guy had left and closed the school down. He didn't have like a big school; it was just a group of guys that got together. He actually used to train with Paul Vunak, and was transferred here for a little bit and started his own little group of guys to start training with. And then when he left, Dad just him and the guys that were in the group kind of continued to train together. And then when I was 16, Dad, kind of bit the bullet, opened up his own little place so that we could start training.
what rank did you get to in Taekwondo?
I was a black belt in Taekwondo. My dad was a third degree black belt in Taekwondo.
Okay. And then with Jeet Kune Do, do they have a belt system as well, or?
I don't think they do. We didn't anyway. It was just, it was kind of just a group of guys that were getting together. I think if you've done it long enough, you can go get certified, and you're like they call you Sifu and all this, but you've got to have access to guys like Dan and Asanto and people like that can actually certify you, I guess, in that sense. My martial arts, or our trainer, like I said, used to train with Paul Vunak, and he actually had a video of him doing, like, it was on a VHS tape of him doing something with Bruce Lee when he was like 79, or back in 1979. And that's the same way Jeet Kune Do started. It wasn't necessarily like a formal belt system and all this. It was just Bruce Lee's desire to figure out the most effective art possible, and no matter what, and no matter who you're going against or what rule set there is, it was just the art of winning. And we just kind of kept that concept and kept moving with it.
And what was the first martial arts that you competed in?
It was Taekwondo. We it was point sparring, katas or patterns and all that. I wasn't bad at the patterns, but it didn't interest me. I always got first in the sparring competitions. So that was what I was there for.
And did you do any jiu-jitsu tournaments as well?
No, I probably didn't. I didn't compete in jiu-jitsu until I'd had my own school, and that was I competed at blue belt and purple belt, and then I competed in a couple of pro matches. When you're over a certain amount of experience, you're just pro in no-gi. But really, when I kind of started getting into the competition jiu-jitsu, is when the bare knuckle took off, and it's not possible for me to really compete in both at the same time. The training regiments are so strenuous when you combine both of them together. So, right now my focus is on, like, I teach jiu-jitsu just about every night,
Okay.
4 or 5 nights a week. I'm always there with my guys. I train, here and there a little bit. When I got a fight coming up, I kind of cut back on how much grappling I'm doing. It doesn't seem to be conducive when I'm trying to train, at a high level training camp for boxing, working all the fast twitch muscles and all that, and then getting down on the ground and grappling. It was causing me some issues as far as, injuries and things of that nature. So, but yeah, man, I love jiu-jitsu. I grapple all the time. I got my black belt back in, I don't know, I think it was about it was back in March, maybe, I think, is when I got my black belt. So, yeah, man, I'm real big in jiu-jitsu. That's my plan when bare knuckles over, is I'm just going to start competing in jiu-jitsu. Hopefully I'm not too old.
Now, who gave you your black belt in jiu-jitsu? Like, do you train like the Charleston and Gracie style, Gracie Baja?
My professor's Professor Vic Rosati. He's a 2-stripe black belt. No, he's a three-stripe black belt.
Okay.
He was Gracie Baja black belt, and that's originally who I was under. And then he left Gracie Baja 4 years ago. And then when he left Gracie Baja, he opened up Warrior Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then I left with him. So I'm still under Professor Vic Rosati, and Clayton Spillers are my 2 professors. Then Clayton's here, and then Clayton got his black belt from Professor Vic. So, but we're all under Professor Vic.
And then, did you have any amateur MMA fights?
I did. I was 12-2 as an amateur. I don't know if they're all recorded. You know, it was back in the day where all that shit was kind of sketchy, whether it was going to get recorded or not. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I had 14 amateur fights before I went pro. Back when I went pro like May 14th of 2011, I think is when it was.
How old were you when you turned pro?
I was 21.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you've been in the game a long time now.
Yeah, it seems like that. I had a guy tell me that the other day at sparring. You know, he was like, "Man, you're already a veteran." When I had my first amateur fight, I'm like, "Come on, bro, I'm a veteran." I mean, like, I just turned pro. I wouldn't say I was a veteran. You know, like, damn, making me sound old.
So, when you turned pro, were you fighting locally in Louisiana, or were you all over the U.S.?
Yeah, I was in Louisiana most of the time. I had some in Mississippi. That's predominantly where I'd fought. I fought in Texas twice, I believe. I'm not a big fan of the Texas Commission. A lot of people aren't, you know, around here like to deal with them. You know, when MMA in Louisiana at one point was a hot spot, man. We had shows. I mean, there were 6 or 7 different promoters all over the state that were putting on fights, and you could go fight for any of them. You know, I think when I was an amateur, I had 11 fights in 1 year. And, you know, right before I went pro, because there were just so many opportunities back then, you know, now it's to the point where I think it happens in every state. All these promoters start trying to cut each other's throats and
right.
Start using the fighters against each other. And if you end up fighting for one promotion, well, now this promoter's not going to use you anymore. And, you know, all that kind of crap. You know, it was one of the reasons I quit fighting MMA in the first place. I just got tired of all the drama and the nonsense. So, but man, yeah, at one time, Louisiana was the place to be when you wanted to fight. Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, man, you could go find a fight every other weekend somewhere.
Were there any other notable fighters coming up in Louisiana when you first started fighting pro?
I think Dustin Poirier had went pro a little bit before me. I feel like I was like 22 when he made it to the UFC, maybe 23, something like that. But no, not necessarily around me, or none of them were coming to train with me. You know, Tim Crater was down south. He's always kind of been a prick. He doesn't really, you know, never tried to help me out or anything. You know, so it was just the same conversation I was having with that guy the other day. His name's Lauren Thibodeau. He's actually going to be on this BKFC card. Super excited about him fighting. It's going to be, I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all now, Lauren Thibodeau versus David Bosnick. If that fight goes down, they're trying to make it happen. That'll probably be fight of the night on October 1st. But yeah, you know, I was over there and I work with him when I see him and we get to train together, you know, and when he was bringing up, you know, the comment of me being a veteran and all that, you know, I was like, but the difference was when I was in your spot, none of the guys like me would help me. You know, like they all just kind of blew you off because as soon as you got a little bit of attention, it was like you were stealing it from them. I'm like, I never had any of the veteran pros like try and take me under their wing or help me or teach me anything. You know, I was always kind of just, you know, figuring it out on my own. So, but yeah, I mean, we had a couple guys come through here. I mean, you know, Dustin Poirier is probably the most noticeable. Brennan Allen, I don't know if y'all keep up with him. He's in the UFC. Y'all know Brennan Allen?
Not offhand. I might have to look him up.
I think he's had 4 or 5 UFC fights. He trains up north with Duke Rufus now, I believe. But kid is a stud. He's at 185. Him and I were coming up at the same time as far as the rankings were going. I know one time he was number, you know, between me, him, and Charlie Rader, we were like 1, 2, and 3. And, you know, that fight never happened or whatever, but, you know, all the best to him.
And what would you say was the highlight of your MMA career?
Man, I don't know. I got a bunch of good fights, I guess I had when I was in MMA. I got a couple, you know, 30-second knockouts, I got a 24-second armbar, 36-second standing arm triangle. I think the most notable that most people probably know about is when I knocked out Daniel Payne on the MTV's Cage show. As far as, you know, people, you know, recognizing me from something, that's probably the biggest one.
Who are you talking to?
Doing an interview. Go back in there.
But who are you talking to?
Somebody on the interview. Yeah.
But who?
Doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, I fought for Legacy, and that I was 1-2 in Legacy. But I mean, MMA was just always one of those things where it was like it was 1-2 steps. You do pretty good, and then something happens, and you took 3 steps back. I never came from like a power gym. I never had any coaches that were like Winkle, John Jackson, or any of those guys. And that has a lot to do with who gets the opportunities and what's going on. And, I just don't think it was the path that God had me intended on. I think He's put me right where I'm supposed to be. Had those opportunities showed up, I probably wouldn't have been ready for them anyway. So, now I'm good and seasoned. I'm ready to take it on.
Did you get paid for knocking out Pain on MTV? I heard someone say that they picked up the show because of that knockout.
Yeah, I never got paid anything.
Oh no,
no, they didn't pay me nothing. That was on the pilot. They, we were at the premiere show, and the producers had been drinking, and they were kind of talking to me and stuff, and they were like, "Yeah, man, if you wouldn't have knocked them out, they weren't going to pick the show up." I'm like, "What?" Because they didn't believe it until the knockout happened. They thought everything was staged. That kind of deal. I was like, "Oh, sweet, I'm going to be rich." Yeah, so much for that. But like I said, I think at the time I probably wouldn't have been mature enough for the opportunities if they'd have come my way anyway. So I know a couple of guys that did get some opportunities off that show, and some of them, one or two of them's doing pretty good still, but the rest of them, I don't even know where they're at.
Anyone try to contact you for that? Like any other show or anything for that?
What do you mean, like reality shows or anything?
Yeah, like the MTV try to contact you, like, hey, do a show with us or anything?
No, none of that happened. Man, I don't know. It was just a weird thing, being on a reality TV show. I wasn't exactly a main character, but I was supposed to be there for all these things and show up for them, and then the season airs, and I'm like, damn, they only showed me for like 5 seconds. I didn't even say nothing. Like, what was the point in this? And I don't know if maybe my attitude at the time was kind of like, because they were trying to demand and want me to go do all this stuff. I'm like, well, where are y'all paying me? Like, are y'all getting me any sponsors? Or, because by the time the show had taken off, I'd already turned pro, because the show didn't get picked up till like a year after we had filmed the pilot. So the rest of those guys were still amateurs, and they were able to fight, frequently and stuff. And there was talks at one time about that they wanted the Daniel guy to like win his fights, and then they were going to do like a second season, or like the finale would be him turning pro and he rematched me, and which I was totally down for, but he lost and got beat up. He never ended up getting to go pro. But yeah, man, it's just one of those things where it's like at the time it was like all I wanted, all I thought was going to happen, and I had the opportunity to be on MTV, and I stood up in a big way. When I showed up and fought that guy, I knocked him out. Like, half the room thought he was dead, and the other half was screaming their head off, and I think it was like a 12-minute video of the fight, but it only lasted like 1 minute and 26 seconds. Like, the rest of it was them getting up off the floor. But it was a good experience to go back and see that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you can't put any faith in that basket, whether it's going to take off. And, those people are just looking out for themselves and trying to sell the best show they can. And if you get picked up, then great. And they're not doing any favors for you.
So what did you think when BKFC first reached out to you?
Well, my training partner, Brandon Martin, me and him have been fighting pretty much, started at the same time in our amateur career, and kept going through. And he had done BKFC too. He in Biloxi. He fought Marcel Stamps.
Oh, okay, that was actually a pretty good showing on his part.
But it was, wasn't it? That was like the best fight, and he like beat the crap out of Marcel in the first round. Dropped him, had him rocked. And then Marcel launched that piss cannon and just caught him with it, man. In the second round, it was one of those things. But when I went there and watched, I was like, man, this is awesome. And at the time, I was still active in MMA. I wasn't trying to go do anything else. And then they came back to Biloxi for BKFC 7, and we had the same manager. And Brandon wasn't able to fight. They had asked him to, but he had too much work or something going on and wasn't able to train. And then, I'd been retired for pretty much like 7 months. And my manager was like, man, you want to do it? And because me and Brandon fought at the same weight. And I'm like, I mean, how much are they paying? And he was like, $2,500. I was like, hell yeah. Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, that's the most money I really. I mean, I made more money than that on fights, but I had to win and sell tickets. It wasn't like I just got $2,500 straight paid. I mean, that was legit for me. I was like, I could get a fist fight for $2,500. Like, dude, bet. And so I had like 21 days to train for it or something like that. And got in shape, or as the best shape I could, and then went out there and just went to brawling, and turned out in my favor.
And then after that, was the next fight with Chris Lieben, or did you have one in
my
between?
next was with Jason Fan. That was, I want to say, December 11th of 2020, maybe 2019, something like that. No, I think it was 2020. I had the Jason Fan fight. And then right after that was the Lieben fight. And then, the rest is history, I guess, as far as that goes. That was, I was really hyped up for the Fan fight. I was in really good shape.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lieben knew he was catching me when I was still a little green as far as the bare knuckle idea went. But I learned a lot from that fight. I think, that's one of those fights that kind of made me a different guy and a different fighter in general. I definitely, now, I mean, I'm not going to say had I won, it would have been, better or worse than losing, but, I learned a lot from losing that fight, and it changed my perspective and, my ability from here on out. So, sometimes, good things come out of what you would presume to be a bad situation.
No, you gave him a fight. Like it was a competitive fight until it ended.
Instagram. Everybody on Instagram was like, he got destroyed by Lieben. What's he gonna do? Against Hunt. Blah blah blah. I'm like, y'all are watching the wrong fight.
Definitely, no, you got him with some good shots.
Man, yeah, I almost dropped him twice with a body shot. He even told me afterwards. But there ain't no love lost between me and him. Fans are stupid, depending on who they're pulling for.
Now, if you could rematch Chris Lieben, what would you do differently?
I wouldn't freak out, and I'd box his ears off. That's exactly what would happen. I would. He wouldn't land a single punch on me, and he probably wouldn't make it out the first round. But he got me before I got my shield. Now I evolved, and but good for Chris. That was a weird situation for me because that was the guy I always like really really liked, like ever since he was on the Ultimate Fighter, and in my mind he was built up to be somebody that that I wasn't on his level, and it was a different class of fighter because the people he'd been in there with, the people he had knocked out. I mean, not to say he'd been knocked out by Anderson Silva and people like that. So but you don't know that you're there until you get there. And that was my fight for that. And, my reaction to it was to just be overamped and just be overhyped, as hyped as I could. And that wasn't the right way to do things. I think I just, the tiger got out of the cage. I got a little too wild. After the eye poke, it was just one of those things where I kind of just flipped out and, let my anger and all that kind of erupt instead of, sitting back and taking a breath and then moving on from there because, up until that point, I felt like I was winning. I was doing pretty good, but, it's just a live and learn, one of those situations. So, I mean, if there's somebody you're going to lose to, at least it was Chris Lieben.
Yeah, exactly. Now, did you start growing the mullet after that fight? Or
I've had, man, I've been wanting a mullet I was wanting it for a long time because the way my hair grows, if I just let it grow out, it just kind of starts throwing out,
okay.
And I'm like, to cut this right here. I'm like, my hair is not made to grow and out like that. So then finally I was like, you know what? I'm just doing it. Like, let's do it. And I went with the mullet. So, yeah, that was actually, man, I got the mullet during quarantine of 2020. I think that was when the mullet started. I didn't have it for my fight with Bubba, but I definitely had it by the time of the Jason Fan fight. The whole quarantine 2020. I think I was supposed to have a fight every month of 2020 from February all the way till I finally had one in December. With everything getting pushed off because of the Rona and certain venues open and then they're closed but yeah, I spent like the whole year in training camp, fresh mullet, fresh cut, staying ready.
So, who were some of the opponents that they mentioned during that time frame?
Man, let's see. So I was supposed to. I was a heavyweight because my first fight with Bubba was at heavyweight, but it was only at heavyweight because he couldn't make 200, and I just agreed to fight him at 215. I think I weighed like 211 or something, and so, but at the time I was bulking. I was like getting bigger because they were talking about doing a heavyweight tournament, and I was like, okay, and they were throwing my name in there, and I'm like, man, I don't think y'all realize how big I am. Like, I'm not that big. I think the smallest guy in the group was Gabriel Gonzaga, and he's like 263.
Wow.
And but yeah, they had my name was kind of in there, and then I was actually gaining weight. I was probably about 240. Just trying to get as big as I could to, kind of compete with those guys. And my body just started kind of breaking down. My back was hurting me all the time, my hips. I got to where I was having to take like an Epsom salt bath every morning just to kind of move. And finally, I was talking to my sports therapist guy and he was working on me. And I was like, man, I think if I just lost some weight, I think a lot of these problems would go away. And he was like, I think if you lost 20 to 25 maybe 30 pounds, 85% of your problems go away. And I was like, yeah, you think so too? He's like, yeah, man, but I know you've been trying to bulk and get bigger. And I just didn't want to say nothing. I'm like, all right. So then I gave that up. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to go to 205. And, and that's just kind of where I've been. When I cut back down, I just naturally kind of sit about 215. I can get up to like 230, 235 if I'm being lazy and trying to really put weight on. But I naturally kind of walk around about 215, so it ain't a big deal for me to, cut that 205. I usually, only have to cut maybe a pound or two the day of weigh-ins. It's a natural weight for me.
What weight are you fighting Lorenzo Hunt at?
Cruiserweight, which is 205.
Do you think he'll show up on weight?
Who knows, man? Who knows? He never makes 185, or he hasn't ever made 185 from what I know of it. I don't know how that works. I know I've watched him miss 205 once before. I didn't fight that night, but I was there because I had a guy fighting. And so then so I don't know, man. I try not to worry too much about what he's doing. He's a clown, man. So, I can't be involved in the circus.
You get a percentage of the purse if he misses?
There's not. I was reading the contract on that the other day, and it's not necessarily like a percentage or whatever else. Like every time I've had that happen with me, it's like, it's like $100 per pound or something like that. But I think that the organization comes up and they kind of like negotiate. They get involved in the negotiation as to what's going to be cut, and it's really whatever I agree to. I mean, I've had multiple opponents not weight in the past, and I usually just like, all right, well, you got an hour and a half. You better go get in the sauna. I made weight, and as long as they're trying, if it gets within close, I'm usually like, yeah, man, that's fine. Let's go with it. I know when we fought Jay Fish, he was having trouble making weight, and I'm a professional. You're a professional, and we agreed to make a certain weight by a certain time. And, if weigh-ins were at 12, but you have until 3 to make weight, then you're going to try and make weight till 3, and then we'll see what you're at. at the end of it, and then maybe we can discuss something. Am I just not going to fight you?
Oh.
Sorry, guys. Go away. So am I just not gonna? I'm not just not gonna fight. You're gonna give me something, and then we'll go from there. But I'm sorry, guys. My wife decided to come in here and spy on me while I interview. But yeah, I remember because my dad usually does all that at the weigh-ins. He watches the scale, and I think it was Fish's like third time to come back to the scale, and he was like, do we just Quentin want to do this much of the purse and this? I think he only had like 0.2 to make or something, and Dad was like, or your ass can go cut that 0.2 pounds, and we ain't got to worry about it. How about that? and he did. He sucked it up. He went and cut the weight, and then we were going to go. And I'm not, unless you just blatantly are like 10 pounds over or something stupid like that. I don't want your money. It's not like it's enough to matter, and at the end of the day, if I know that the guy was trying and working, I don't want to take food out of his mouth or his kid's mouth and all that. So, I get my money, you got your money. As long as you put forth the effort, then we can make something happen. This one's for a title. So, if he doesn't make weight, then the title's not up for grabs as far as I know, or maybe I would be able to, or yeah, who knows? So I try not to put too much effort into it, but I can tell usually at the weigh-ins how hard you tried. And like when I fought Chris Sorrow, he made weight, first try, no problem. And that was the best shape I'd ever seen him in. So that was pretty cool. So you can't really have any anticipations as to what's coming up because you get too locked in on something and then it surprises you. And, so as far as I know, Lorenzo's, in my mind, he's making weight and we're not going to have any issues. So, and then if he does have issues and that's on him, ain't got nothing to do with me. I'll be that way.
Now, is he the 205-pound champion or is it vacant because of Lombard? I never really understood who got the title after that fight and which title.
Well, the fight with Lombard was for the 185 belt. And so with the 205 belt wasn't up for grabs. The 205 BKFC belt anyway. But supposedly they did fight for the Police Gazette belt because they were within the cruiserweight range of like at 194 or something. And but since Hector lost and they didn't have the 205 belt up for grabs, then he didn't lose the belt, so he was still the champion, and then he vacated. So now Lorenzo's number 1 and I'm number 2.
Oh, awesome. Now, are you ready for the mind games that Lorenzo Hunt's gonna pull?
Man, I've heard people say that, but Lorenzo Hunt isn't smart enough to play mind games with me. I don't know. I don't know what he thinks he's going to play. I see him on Planet Hank every morning looking like a dumbass, just acting like a fake clown all the time. He says all kinds of stuff, man, just whatever he can. He talks about me being a country white boy and I'm from the South and blah, 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 blah. He just insults like a whole demographic of people in what he's doing. And it's because he has there's no real merit in any of his insults. He's got nothing to say about me. I'm not a bad guy. I don't, act a fool and do things. I am a good fighter. He can just sit there and talk about how much greater he is than me all the time. And he lives his own legend, bro. And, mind games. Damn, he needs to go get hooked on phonics before he tries to come over here and play some mind games with me. He can't even spell.
All right, so it's a press conference. They want you guys to do a face-off. Lorenzo's walking towards you with a tomato. What do you do?
Well, I mean, as long as he don't move, we're good. But if he touches me, I'm gonna slap the shit out of him. So it's just pretty much how that goes. I don't think he wants to do that, but I'm not that guy that is like, oh, he's in my head. Like, I think he had Joe Riggs mad, like really mad.
100%. But
I think that really affected Joe's performance. And, but I know that the only reason Hector does that is because he's scared. And the more he tries to push you and the more he tries to do things like that is just telling you more that he's just insecure. And, I don't need to do those things to win this fight. And the only way that he's going to win this fight is if he can get me to doubt myself. And, the harder he presses to do that, then the more I know that he's worried. And, so the more annex and the more games he tries to play or the more insults that he throws, it just tells me, that he's that much more worried. And he knows that if it just comes down to skill and fighting me like a normal person, then he's got no chance. And, but if he feels like he needs that fake confidence to show up, then whatever. But, it's just going to make it better at the end of the day because, the things that he says, when I win this fight, he's going to have a whole lot of crow to eat. And, that's fine. I'm not one of those guys that finds my meaning in fighting. I've got greater things that define who I am. And, so at the end of the day, this is just a fight to me, win or lose. I've still got my family. I've still got my house. I still got a good relationship with God. And, I'm just going to move on from it and it'll just be a cool story that I'll tell my grandkids one day. So, I'm not, not that it's not that I don't want it, but I'm just not as emotionally, I don't build myself on being a fighter. There's so much more to me than that. It's just one of the things that I do. So, I think when you are of that mindset, it pretty much makes you invulnerable when it comes to pressure and, what things people say and what things people do. And, because at the end of the day, they don't matter. So, I'm going to keep being Quentin. I'm still going to be the hero. And, I'm going to lay my head down at night and I'm going to be happy because of what I've done and what I've accomplished. So, how many people even get to say they're number one in the world at something or they're, get and fight for a world championship? So, I mean, I've already won as far as that goes. So, if that was all that defined me, then this would be a big deal, because then I'd be worried about what am I going to do if I lose? What am I going to do? Well, I know what I'm going to do if I lose. I'm just going to go back to work and we're going to be fine. And I'll start training again. And, but it just takes so much of the pressure off of it. It's a job and I know what I need to do to win. And as long as I'm doing those things and I'm training right, and I know that God's given me the ability and the talent and the work ethic to make all this come together and make it happen. So, it might be a long night for Lorenzo. We'll just see how loud he starts chirping. I love cashing wolf tickets. That's our expression for it down here. You start selling them wolf tickets like the big bad wolf, but somebody gonna cash some bitches if you don't watch out. And I got my hole punch. I'm ready for them.
Now, what do you think is the biggest hole in Lorenzo Hunt's game? Without giving away your strategy.
Man, I feel like there's a lot of holes in his game. I don't feel like there's that many things that he does as far as, he's not coming at you like a Swiss Army knife. He's going to try and get you off rhythm, and then he's going to try and explode and swing a bunch of punches real fast and hope that you're not ready for it. And I'm not that guy. I think, I'm not saying that he's a terrible fighter, but matchups make fights. And he has the absolute worst style you can have to try and fight me. And, he's going to find that out soon. But, you can't just shotgun blast everything. You got to sometimes be a tactician. And, he's not bigger than me. I think that's a big advantage he's had going down to 185 is that, he's bigger than these guys. And he's not. He's not bigger than me. He's not taller than me. He doesn't have reach on me. He's not stronger than I am. He's not faster than I am. And he's not smarter than me. So, I don't really see what chance he's got in this fight, but I'm definitely going to be. I'm already in better shape than I was for my last fight, and my weight's even closer on point. I'm going to have even better training camp. So I'm just taking it one day at a time. I'm just ready for the first to get here.
So it's the day after the fight. I'm reading an article that says Quentin Henry defeated Hunt. How did Quentin win?
Knockout for sure. Yeah, he's getting knocked out, and he might get lucky and get knocked out, but my plan is to make him quit. I want to beat him up until he quits, and that's what I do when I fight every time. I I don't want to knock you out. That's the easy way out. I want you to quit. And that's the way that you defeat a man 100%. At the end of the day, when he says no mas, there ain't no questioning, oh, he got lucky, this and that. And, because Lorenzo's one of those guys. He got knocked out by the Cuban assassin, but he told the tale so many times that it was stopped on a cut. Boy, it wasn't stopped on a cut. We watched that fight. Quit playing. Quit playing. You got up looking like a baby deer. You couldn't hold yourself up. You're talking about it got stopped on a cut. So it's like one of those guys that you don't want to knock him out, because when he gets up, he's going, oh, he got lucky. Oh, this happened, blah, blah, blah. But when I make you quit on that stool, it ain't luck no more. You know what happened. Whether you want to admit it or not, we both know.
So besides bare knuckle fighting, have you ever had any professional boxing matches?
I have. I was 2-0 as a pro boxer. I had one fight that was unsanctioned. It was in some weird petroleum club, like rich guys building. I don't know. There was a commission there, but it never showed up on record. And, one of those weird type of things that felt like I was in a movie. And I had another pro boxing match here in Monroe back in like 2018 or something like that. And then I was scheduled to have another one, but we had a big fire here in West Monroe, and I got caught up in some smoke and had some smoke inhalation stuff. I had to back out of it, but yeah, that was about the extent it was with boxing. It was I was a little too old in the game as far as, because I think I was probably like 26 or 27 when I was thinking about getting into it. And really by that point, if you're a pro boxer, you need to already have 20 fights already. But there were options like, yeah, we can go to Mexico and go get some wins. And I'm like, man, I ain't got time for that. Like, I ain't got time for that. So, but I was always ready. I was just picking up boxing matches really just to make some extra money.
And me and Jose love street fight stories. Do you have one that comes to mind that you could share with us?
I really don't. I don't have any. Like, I really don't. People don't fight me, bro, and it's not like I don't want to fight them, man. But it never ends up happening. Like, I got a couple buddies that are smaller guys, and every time they go out, they get in a fight. And but they're about that life, because they train with me and they're friends with me. And so, like, we would go out back when I was single and stuff, and I'd be like, oh man, I got Dylan with me. I was like, we're gonna get in a fight tonight. It's gonna be awesome. and it just wouldn't happen. There's just too many beta males out there, I guess, but yeah, I mean, I've punked out plenty of people as far as that goes, but I was told at one point that being a professional fighter, like if I fight somebody and hurt them, I'm going to get in more trouble. So I try to always give people like the disclaimer, first. I'm really good at talking shit to people and because I'm not worried about what's going to happen as a result of it, like that. We can get down to that part if we want to. And, but most people kind of look at me and I think either right off the bat, they realize I'm not going to do it, or as soon as they hear me, I come back at them, they're like, all right, this dude ain't playing and he's too big for me to fool with. So, but yeah, I love street fights too, man. I've never been into like any awesome ones. Like I would get in fights at school and stuff, but most people tend not to mess with me. I guess I've been fortunate in that. Maybe I just look like a guy not.
What round do you have winning this next fight? Because I love putting money on fights, so I'm gonna need your input to put this money on there.
I think he goes down by the second.
Second round knockout. Yeah.
The bell for the third.
All right, I'm gonna have money on you.
Yeah, appreciate it, bro. That's what I'm feeling. That's what we're going for there. I think if you can make it, I don't think there's anybody that's going to last 2 rounds with me. By the end of that second round. By the end of the first round, I'm going to have you figured out, and the second round is just a matter of time. Depends on how much dancing he's doing.
Got anything else, Johnny?
No, then that's pretty much it. Just want to be respectful of his time because I know we're a little bit over what I initially said.
It's all good.
Quinn, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you for your patience for for us getting started there, and we wish you the best of luck.
No problem, guys. I appreciate it. See y'all soon.
See you soon.
Thank you, brother.
Bye.